Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast special edition series where I go over every NFL team's offseason preview and predict what may go on. This is going to be the 23rd of 32 episodes, and this is going to be the New Orleans Saints. So we go over free agents to be, team needs, franchise tag candidate, trade candidate, release candidate, extension candidate, best draft fit, best free agent fit, and a bold prediction for each team. And like I said at the top, this is going to be the New Orleans Saints. All right, free agents to be, Jameis Winston, Michael Thomas, Keith Kirkwood, Andres Pete, Zach Bond, and Rashid Shaheed. So not a lot of free agents on New Orleans. Team needs quarterback, well, more of a backup if they lose Jameis, or a long-term answer potential post-Carr. Wide receiver, offensive tackle, outside linebacker. For a franchise tag candidate, this was hard to find. I put down Michael Thomas. I mean, I wouldn't be stunned. I don't think they're going to actually do it, but he's the most likely to get franchise tagged on this team. I mean, Zach Bond hasn't lived up the hype as a prospect from the draft. Andres Pete's old. And Rashid Shaheed's restricted, or exclusive rights free agent. So, to me, the only answer is Michael Thomas. All right, trade candidate Peyton Turner. This is solely based on there's no room. Cam Jordan is a franchise player for them for years. He's a longtime Saint. And this is kind of like Tyron Smith with Dallas, although Tyron Smith might actually leave as a free agent. And the other is Carl Granderson, who was a diamond in the rough that the Saints found as a undrafted free agent. And he's locked up long term. So that leaves Peyton Turner out and as a trade candidate. There's other trade candidates on this team. Maybe some of the veterans that they might not be able to afford to keep. Demario Davis, I doubt they'll move him. Maybe Colin Saunders or Nathan Shepard, Marcus May. Release candidate, Tyrann Mathieu. Honey Badger, I feel like he's always cut. Poor Honey Badger. Saints picked him up as a free agent. Again, like the theme of these picks most likely to be cut are guys that are always injured. Honey Badger was really good last year. 81.3 overall grade on Pro Football Focus. And he was really good the year before, too. 81.2. 2021 was a 67.3. But the last 2 years, he's been awesome. But who knows? Maybe they can get something for him in the trade. But I think because of a potential cap figure, I think he could be cut. Those two defensive tackles I mentioned earlier, Shepard and Saunders, I think are cut candidates. So is Demario Davis. I don't think they would cut Marshawn Lattimore, but you never know. Juwan Johnson, I feel like, is a cut candidate. They will never get rid of Taysom Hill. Ever. And Andres Pete was a cut candidate for years, but they just never cut him. Same with Michael Thomas, actually. But Michael Thomas was because of more off-field issues. Extension candidate, Pete Werner. Pete Werner's production declined the last several years, but he's still Pete Werner. He's still really good. And he's a guy that I think they're going to give the bag to. So that would be my pick for extension. And a year from now, we're going to be talking about Chris Olave. We know. They paid Cesar Ruiz and Eric McCoy already. But I think despite not playing as good as his potential, I think they will still pay Pete Warner. All right, best draft fit. J.C. Latham, the tackle out of Alabama. They need to replace Andres Pete. In my first two mocks, I had New Orleans taking J.C. Latham, ironically enough, and Felice Fuaga of Oregon State. But I think Latham's the best fit. He's a Bama guy. Plug-and-play player. Makes a lot of sense. They need youth at the tackle position. We go with Ryan Ramczyk. So Latham makes sense. Fuaga makes some sense. I think Braylon Trice makes sense if they're okay to trade back. Darius Robinson, Chop Robinson would be a good fit in New Orleans. Say if they went tackle in the second round, Tyler Guyton, Jordan Morgan, maybe he's more of like a trade back candidate. They like the versatile guys, so Graham Barton wouldn't shock me at New Orleans. Patrick Paul, talk about receivers. Jalen Polk makes sense. Xavier Legette, Xavier Worthy, Brendan Rice. And in terms of quarterbacks for like long-term potential, Jordan Travis makes some sense from Florida State. So that's a quarterback to watch with the Saints. I don't think any like J.J. McCarthy or Michael Penix or Bo Nix are that realistic for them. I think maybe somebody like Jordan Travis for New Orleans for a long-term or a backup quarterback standpoint, he makes the most sense. Free agent fit. Odell Beckham Jr. Why not? Saints are still a veteran-laden team. Odell's an upgrade over Michael Thomas at this point. He'd be good with Chris Olave and some of the young, explosive guys they have. I could see him having a good repertoire chemistry with Derek Carr. So I think Odell makes a lot of sense there. I think Michael Pittman makes sense. Gabe Davis, Darnell Mooney, Trent Brown, Michael Wano, maybe Levante David, although that'd be ballsy of him to go to a division rival. Daniil Hunter makes some sense if the Vikes don't franchise tag him. But yeah, not a lot of guys make sense for the Saints. Jadeveon Clowney makes some sense too. So, those are some guys I want to toss out there. In terms of free agent fits. And my bold prediction for this team, I'm going to say the team continues its veteran-laden shopping, and they acquire Khalil Mack from the Chargers for a 2024 fourth and a 2025 sixth. The Chargers, I think, need to shed some money. Khalil Mack, I think somebody could just try to steal in the trade market from the Chargers. And I think that Mack on New Orleans makes a lot of sense. And you play him with Granderson and Cam Jordan. So that makes sense. And we talked about Peyton Turner, his possible destinations. I like the Jets for him. That makes a lot of sense. I think the Giants make some sense too. Be with Kayvon Thibodeau and that pass rush. But yeah, I think there's a lot of teams that could use Peyton Turner's services. The Miami Dolphins, Buffalo, New England, if they want to continue its youth movement and young guys kind of strategy that they should do. Maybe the 49ers, maybe the Chiefs, because they might lose Mike Donna, so Peyton Turner on Kansas City would make sense. But yeah, Khalil Mack on the Saints would make sense. And I think the Saints want to get back to the top of that division after badly underachieving this past year. And who knows what the Bucs are going to look like. They have a lot of free agents. We're probably going to get to them tomorrow. So, there you have it for bold prediction for the Saints. All right, odds. Derek Carr probably has super long odds for MVP. Oh my God. 150-1. Same as Daniel Jones, Russell Wilson, who might not even be on the Broncos, CeeDee Lamb, Caleb Williams, and Drake May. My God. That is hysterical. Alvin Kamara for Offensive Player of the Year is probably going to be like 20-1 or something like that. I could see myself taking a flyer on that if that's higher than 20-1. He's awesome when he's healthy. Chris Olave to lead the league in like receiving touchdowns, I could see as a possibility as well. Because that guy's a stud. Cam Jordan's really underrated. He's been an underrated player in the league since he's been in the league. He's probably would have like 50-1 odds to win Defensive Player of the Year. And Carl Granderson would probably be a longer shot at like 70 or 75-1. Marshawn Lattimore would probably be around there or like 80-1. Dennis Allen for Coach of the Year is going to be super long odds because Dennis Allen does not have the best reputation, as we know. He's probably going to be like 90-1 for Coach of the Year. Division. They're probably going to be right there at Atlanta for like the co-favorite. If the Saints are higher than plus 250 and they make some good moves in free agency, I would consider them if they're higher than plus 250. I think they're going to probably be... I think the Atlanta Falcons could have Russell Wilson as their quarterback. They'll probably be favored in that division because everybody loves them. But if anything, those two teams should be co-favorites. But the Saints are probably be 2-1. Atlanta will probably be like plus 160 or something like that. They'll be plus money. Maybe the Saints are plus 180 and Atlanta's plus 160 or something like that. Win total for New Orleans, I think it'll be 8. Right at 8, maybe 8.5. But I think it's going to be 8. That just makes sense for the Saints, especially in that division. And is this a Belichick team? Or a candidate for Belichick? Absolutely. If New Orleans doesn't make the playoffs, I think Dennis Allen is absolutely the fall guy. And maybe there's a veteran quarterback that's available via trade next year. And maybe they get rid of Derek Carr. Or they draft somebody young and they have a ready-made roster for Bill. And he could go in there and get them to be successful. Or he could be successful with Derek Carr. You could have that option as well. Say if Carr's still there and they don't feel like cutting him, or they think that Bill can fix him, which I think he absolutely can, as long as if Bill has the right roster to work with and Bill doesn't make any stupid decisions like he did with New England. I do think that New Orleans is a Belichick possibility. And honestly, I think that is your best bet in the NFC South if Bill picks a team from that division. I think New Orleans would be the best bet. And plus, I think their owners could be desperate as well. So there you have it for the Saints. Next up is the New York Football Giants.